Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 2nd of August. Well, the other day saw a little bit of softening within the broader long setup. It's just a little bit of that short-term buyers were fading. Didn't give it enough impetus to really push through anything. And we had the positive extremes that will need a little bit of a fill back, and you can still be within upswing even when that takes place. But not surprising that we're getting a little softness because it's a really significant dip in the steel here on the DOC reading, and that's enough to do it. Now, if we do get the complete rollover of the red DOC and cyan moving up for a DOC spread, then maybe we will begin to see a little bit more weakness. We're not seeing any improvement from shakeout gold, so sort of that momentum of the entire move that started with this breakup here of the shakeout gold sort of kind of finally run its course. And again, this is that whole theory that the Fed will have to ease and that they're lying, that they're not going to maintain their hawkish thing. The difficulty is if the Fed actually does what they say they're going to do and does it in the belief that there is no recession in that, the market would be very wrongly positioned for what that would lead to. So it's something to keep in the back of your mind. Obviously, we'll watch the indicators from it. NASDAQ has been the leader on this, and you can tell just from looking at where it is relative to the Morganachis, all the way to 100% versus the S&P on that. And similar with the DOC setup as far as the fading of short-term buyers, but doesn't have quite nearly the positive extremes, just the low of this bar right here for projected fill. So could still see some softness, but I think that overall bullish still built within there. Of course, the euro was very excited on that until the Germany just came out with their consumer spending numbers, which were a record low print that they hadn't seen, coupled with the manufacturing index. Things are accelerating in their collapse quicker than I think some may have anticipated. That's going to put pressure again on the euro, even though they're still trying to push it up. We've seen yields in the U.S. fading just a little bit, which is just bizarre given where the Fed trajectory is. So there's a lot of strange occurrences and a lot of what appears to be just disagreement as to exactly what's going to transpire longer term. And some of that is moving itself into gold as expected, coming off the bottom with that buy dip of the orange DOC. And once we get to the 23%, we're now at the 50. Getting a little bit accelerated, so we may have to see some sideways or a little bit of a pause in there because it's getting a little bit accelerated within the run. But not a shock because, well, as we've talked about before, actually, I should put that back up there. You know, when you get a break of these lows, often the return is to come back to that break, and that becomes kind of a steady thing that we see on a regular basis whenever there's a flattening or turnaround set up within it. The better news on oil, still below the 100 marker. You know, if it breaks 90 in that, I think you could see a lot more impetus, and that would really throw things off because that would suggest that potentially either there's a significant amount of demand drawdown or that supply is increased. So we'd have to see what the difference between those two would be and whether or not that would be a softening enough of inflation to allow economic growth to continue, and ergo the Fed's dream of a soft landing, so to speak, which would definitely promote the quantitative tightening versus easing, and again, contrary to currently where the market's positioned. And you can see right here, again, TO2 rising, so yields going down just because of the amount of demand coming into it, or the belief that rates have peaked, and that would be an interesting prospect. So Bitcoin, again, still unable to get past these blocks between that 24 and then the support down at the 18-19 range, so just kind of in a trading range during this period, which not bad. The beauty of ETH, though, I think this becomes more obvious as we show how clean some of these paint bar prints are. It's just ideal from that standpoint. And then we have the fade off here of with the white NDI on the 50K that led to the move to the 0%, and did that perfectly. So that combination, when we get that spike, and particularly when magenta is below 25, yeah, always effective from that standpoint. So it did exactly what we would expect from there. From a 5K, we had beautiful ranges all day. We marked that earlier cell signal. It's pretty straightforward. And the turnaround by, and so we were getting some just beautiful wave action with all of these moves coming back and forth, and they were significant point winners. So it was just a matter of following what was given and being okay with it. This is always that interesting consideration that I talk about a lot. It's a tough one from a programming standpoint, how to navigate it when the red is leading on that magenta move. Yes, we expect a push forward in this case because the one bar went above the 23% that was presenting long, but immediately the magenta faded, and as soon as it did that, it turned lower, and of course that accelerated into new lows as the white MDI kept leading all the way through until we based down again and started to roll back over. But towards the end of the day, we were in consolidation, but there were still a bunch of positive extremes in that from before. We already had the other levels set, came back to the 4103, and then dipped again all the way back to the lower level, which was right down here at that 4080 range. So we're getting a little bit of buyback here right before the open. So we'll see if that's sustainable or we're going to see a little bit more. It looks like it's a pretty decent move at this particular stage, but that 50K is going to have to continue with that magenta leading, and that would be enough for the turnaround. So we get a pop back up towards that 50% range, all the way up at the 4114, which is still another 10 plus points away. As always, though, I will update you with tricks on Skype chat. Trade well. Talk to you later.